Guys, stick with me here, and I promise you, you will never see a video more impactful, valuable, and insightful on why people who purchase homes gain more wealth over the long term than those who rent.
You better get fired up.
Guys, I hope you're fired up because I'm fired up. This is a video that I've put a lot of time and effort into, and I'm a real estate agent. This is my industry, right? We all have things that we do, whatever it is, and you've got your passions. This is my passion. One of my greatest goals in life, in my career, in my industry, is to get renters, at least my friends, my audience, my family. If you are renting and it does not make sense financially, I want to open your eyes. I want to wake you up, and I want to get you into a house. Use another realtor. I don't care. This is not a business pitch. This is I want you to do better for yourself pitch. I want you to show your kids what building wealth looks like. Okay. So I'm going to share something with you that I personally created. I'm going to tell you, I created it when I was in the Army. And I was nerding out on, here we go. You should be able to see it now. I was nerding out with my wife saying, listen, we're only going to be at this place for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. And we don't know. We might be there for 2.5. We might be there for 6. It's whatever the Army wants to do. But I want to make sure that we have done a little bit of analysis to decide whether or not it makes sense to purchase or to rent. And I wanted to take all factors into consideration. All right. So we're making a couple assumptions here. Number one, we're assuming that you can come up with the cash that you need down. And right now, if you're not a veteran, and let's just assume you've got tougher credit, you're looking at 3.5% down. You can do 3% down, but let's just assume 3.5% down. And I'm also looking at a $350,000 home. I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. But 3.5% of $350,000 is $12,250. Do you have closing costs in addition to that? Yes. But you can also negotiate that, right? We're not talking about finding a dream house right now. We're talking about taking a renter and getting them out of the idea, the mindset of renting, and getting them into the idea, the mindset of building wealth over time. Once you've built up that wealth, now 5-10 years later, you can go find a home that better fits what you're looking for. But right now, guys, we've got to start building some wealth for you, right? So I'm assuming you've got $12,000, $13,000 in cash, right? Listen, if you're going to go find a rental right now, the typical rental that we're looking at on the lower end in Port St. Lucie is $2,500 a month. Just about every renter out there, every management company out there is going to want to see 3 times that amount. That's $7,500. You're only $5,000 off from what you would need to be able to purchase. Okay. And you can get gifts from family members. There are a lot of different options. There's programs. There's a million different ways to do this. Guys, you could just save literally for 10 months, $500 a month. I'm not saying that's nothing. It is challenging. But if it changes the wealth direction for the rest of your life, for your kids, for your kids' kids, is it worth whatever compromise, sacrifice you've got to go through to do it? Assuming it can happen, absolutely, unquestionably, or at least we're going to answer it right here, right? So let's get into some scenarios. First, I'm entering this information. Monthly rent. I'm assuming $2,500. Why? I looked up rentals in Port St. Lucie, single family homes with 1,600 to 2,000 square feet. That's average in this area. 3+ bedrooms, and they start at $2,200. That's the cheapest rental I could find on the MLS. Could you scour the internet and find something cheaper? Absolutely. But is it going to have 3 bathrooms? Is it going to be as nice? Is it going to be, maybe an Okeechobee, Fort Pierce, whatever? Who knows? But that's what I found on the MLS, okay? Of the 62 rental options that fit that criteria, 12, or roughly 20%, were at $2,200 to $2,500. So the bottom fifth, the bottom 20%, the high point was $2,500. So we're not looking at a top 80% rental right now. We're looking at a bottom 20% rental. You're looking at $2,500 a month. So that's why we use that, right? Annual rent increases. I looked back to 1980 and did the math. What is that? 20 plus 23. That's 43 years. The average rental increase per year is 8.85%. It outpaces inflation, which inflation's been crazy lately, and it has still outpaced that, right? And here's the scary thing. I'm thinking as a dad with kids or a brother with a sister, or even a kid who's looking at my parents, you don't know how much rent is going to go up. It can go up whatever it wants to. A lot of you guys have faced doubles in your rental costs in the last couple of years. You're not in control. When you own a house, yes, you don't know what taxes and insurance are going to do, but the majority of your payment, generally speaking, is going to be your principal and interest. And when you lock into a 30-year fixed loan or a 15-year fixed loan, which is probably 99% of loans right now, you know your principal and interest are not going to change. This is why if you've got grandparents who are 70, 80, 90 years old and they've got a beautiful house, and let's say they've still got a mortgage, a lot don't, but let's say they do, and they're telling you, oh, our mortgage on this $500,000-$600,000 house is 8.25%. And you're thinking, 8.25%, how is that possible? Your payment in 25 years on that 30-year loan is going to sound ridiculous to your kids, your grandkids, because it doesn't change. Everything else keeps creeping up, but your principal and interest never changes. That's one of the big things here that helps homeowners. You've got to get that path started, right? So, monthly mortgage payment of $23.21. How did I crunch that number? Here's how. I looked at the same criteria as I did for rentals. Port St. Lucie, single family homes, 1,600 to 2,000 square feet, 3+ bedrooms. And when I looked at that, there were 10 options up to $350,000. Half of those options, 5, were built in the last 8 years, 2015 to 2023. So you've got some newer options in there, right? And there were newer options not in HOAs. In fact, of the 10 options up to 350, only 2 had an HOA fee. The other 8 did not have an HOA fee. So I'm not calculating in an HOA fee. I'm looking at a 350 price tag. I'm looking at 6.75% interest, which the other day we just got one locked at 6.75. Could it go lower? Sure. Could it go higher? Absolutely. That's just the rate I'm throwing out. I'm looking at 3.5% down on FHA. And I'm looking at $130 in PMI, right? PMI is if you don't have 20% down on a loan, sometimes they're going to charge you what's called PMI or MIP. It's either, I think it stands for private mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance premium. I think that's what it stands for. Really what it's saying is you don't have enough skin in the game to where we're comfortable knowing that you're not going to default on this loan. So we're going to charge you this extra fee that when we look at the amount of default on these less than 20% loans, it crunches out to where we get our money back. So we're comfortable with it, right? That's kind of the basic thought behind private mortgage insurance or a mortgage insurance premium. So I'm assuming $130. Is that a little high, a little low? You'd have to look at your specific scenario, but I'll tell you that's right in the realm of reality, right? So that comes out to $2,321 a month, very close to the $2,500 you're paying in rent, okay? But you've got annual repairs. Now, I'll tell you, as an investor, we always figured on a rental that we owned, we'd need to put 1.5% into annual repairs. You're not going to need that 1.5% every single year. The roof and the AC are 2 big costs that we're dividing out, right? So we're looking at the average length of a roof, the average length of an AC, and then we're adding in all the other little things. We're dividing it out over a 20, 30-year span, and it comes out to 1.5%, right? So some years are going to be big years, some years are going to be 0, right? But I'm averaging it at 1.5%. Property tax and insurance. So on a $350,000 home, I am assuming taxes are going to be around $5,400, and I'm assuming your insurance is going to be around $4,000. When you do the math on a $350,000 home, that comes out to 2.69% of the home value. Why am I using percentages and not numbers? Because as the home value goes up every year, I'm assuming these numbers are going up as well. I'm assuming insurance is going to go up with the home value. I'm assuming taxes are going to go up with the home value, right? We got to take that into consideration. Selling costs. This is not your commission, okay? We're going to add in commission in a little bit, but this is not your commission. This is all of your other fees to sell other than your commission. It tends to be around 0.5% to 1%. So I went on the higher end and threw in 1% here. What are your buying costs? Again, I always tell people 3 to 4%. So I put an average in there of 3.5%, right? Might be a little high, might be a little low, but that's a pretty good average. What is the home's initial value? I'm assuming you're buying a $350,000 home for $350,000. You're not paying $360,000 for it, right? So we're paying $350,000. We're getting $350,000 in value, hopefully. What is your mortgage rate? Again, I'm assuming 6.75%. What is your real estate appreciation? So I went back and looked over the last 30 years, and you got to remember, we've got 2008 where we saw the biggest housing crisis we've ever seen, but we've also seen the last handful of years during COVID where we've seen monstrous increases, right? So all in all, 4.65% seems pretty reasonable. I looked at the last 50 years, 75 years. All of those numbers were very, very close. So I figured 4.65. I'm very confident with that, right? That's not crazy. Selling commission, I'm assuming 6%. Do you have 7% commissions? Yes. Do you have 5% commissions? Yes. I'm using a commission that I see most often, which is 6%. So that's what we're assuming you're paying when you go to sell that home, okay? And then the tax bracket, you can completely disregard. We're not even considering any benefits you would get tax-wise for a homeowner, right? So these are all worst case numbers for a homeowner, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to scroll up. What is this? This is reviewing what a 10-year analysis would look like renting versus owning. All right. And we're using all the numbers that I just discussed. So right here, if you get an apartment or a house or whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, it just says apartment. What would we be paying? So it's taking your annual rent, which I said is $2,500. It's multiplying that by 12, and your annual rent is going to be $30,000. Now, on year two, it's assuming that, what did I say? Annual rent increase of 8.85%. So it's taking this 30 grand and it's adding in 8.85%. On year three, your rent's going to be this. On blah, 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 blah. So you look at year 10. I want to skip down to something here. Your mortgage payment is $27,852. That is this $23,21 times 12. And you can see on year 10, it is still $27,852. That's one of the biggest reasons that people who own homes start to build wealth. And when you're renting, it's challenging. Because look at this rental situation, okay? I know you already know the answer to this, but I don't think you can see my calculator. So $30,000 on year one here, that's your $2,500 a month, right? Look at year 10. Look at year 10. 64,354 divided by 12. That's 5,362 a month. That's what we're guessing you're going to be paying in 10 years based on the average raise in rent since 1980. $5,300, while your friend who purchased is still paying that $2,321 a month. Again, that's one of the biggest differences between renting and buying. But let's keep moving. Lost deposit. I'm assuming that you're never going to lose any deposit money, although you could. And there are not any tax. Again, we're not looking at any tax benefits here, right? So what are these numbers right here? The 30 grand is what you're out. You just paid your landlord's mortgage down and you put 30 grand towards him building up equity in his property. So landlord says, thank you very much. I appreciate you, right? What's the 62.5? It's the 30 grand you blew the first year on rent and the 32,655 you blew in the second year. You total those up and it's 62,655. What's this 98.2? It's the 62,655 from the first 2 years plus the 35,545 from the third year. Add all that up, it's 98.2. So over 10 years, if you're looking at bottom 20% rentals, and we're looking at all the numbers that I just assumed happening, you're seeing that over 10 years, you have blown $452,000 on paying other people's mortgages down and helping them build equity. Okay. But again, none of that matters, in my opinion, if we haven't looked at what we're doing when we're purchasing. Maybe that's even worse, right? Because you're out money either way. The question is, in which scenario am I out the least amount of money, thus keeping more money in my pocket? That's the question. With renting, you're out $452,538 over 10 years. Over 5 years, you're out 179 and $5, almost 180 grand. Now let's look at owning. Your mortgage payment we already went through. Again, it's going to remain the same the entire time that you own it, assuming you're on a fixed rate loan, which 99% of people are. What are your annual repairs and maintenance? This is that 1.5% of value we were talking about. You can see it goes up every year. That's because your value goes up, which kind of accounts for the fact that, screws are going to go up and hammers are going to go up and wood is going to go up and roofs are going to go up. All these things are going to go up every year. So I'm assuming it's going up as your home value is going up. Okay. Property taxes, same thing. We've assumed that your property taxes, and this includes your insurance as well, right? So your property taxes, let me actually change that. This is assuming that those amounts are going up as well with your values. And taxes will go up and insurances likely will go up. Will they come down? Maybe once or twice over 20 years, but they're going up, baby. So there are some assumptions made, right? Selling costs. Again, this is not your commission. This is your 1% of value. At the end of year one, your home is worth about 366.3, I'm guessing. So 1%, or I'm sorry, it wouldn't. Yeah, it would be that. So the 1% is going to be 3663, right? Now you're not selling every year. So it's not taking that, let's just call it 3,600 into consideration every year. It's only taken into consideration on the year you sell. All right. So at the bottom here, I'm going to skip to the bottom. This right here is the answer to the test. This is telling you yes or no. Is it worth it to buy or is it worth it to rent? So what it's saying is, and I'll come back up and look at these numbers in a second. On the first year, if you were to rent for a year versus buying, living there for a year and selling, it would be $31,000 to the detriment to buy. Why? Because you're taking on all those buying costs, all those selling costs, and you didn't have enough time to build up appreciation or equity, right? For those reasons, and I tell people all the time, it's about 2.5 to 4 years is your break-even point. In that case, you are going to want to rent. So if you're moving somewhere, let's say, here's a scenario I had the other day. Hey, my mom has cancer. She's probably not going to make it more than 3 to 6 months. I want to come down there and rent. I do not want to live here permanently. Do you have a rental? I'm not going to push that person into owning. They're probably not going to be here past a year. And even if mom does really well, they're probably not going to be here past 2 years. And in 1 to 2 years, you're just not going to get the appreciation and equity to make up for it. So I'm going to say, hey, let's go find you a rental, right? But if you're going to stay here for a while, and if your goal is to build wealth, and this, man, I'm going to beat on this American mindset for a little bit. We want so much convenience. We want so much comfort. We want the bling billing, the bougie, all these great things. But if that's what you're chasing your whole life, you're going to have a really tough time if you're not saving your money and making inconvenient, uncomfortable decisions to build wealth. If you can get into the not so pleasant, not so pretty, maybe it's got wallpaper you don't like, flooring you don't like, $350,000 home, and you can own it and start building this equity, look what happens on year 4. You will have put $3,800 extra in your pocket owning versus had you rented that entire time. So your break even here is probably about 3 years and 8 months, 3 years and 9 months, I'm guessing, somewhere around there. But look on year 5. Now you're up 22 G's. That's a lot of money. After 10 years of owning versus renting, and assuming that you're selling on year 10, you've got an extra $185,000 in your bank, assuming you're saving it, because you decided to buy instead of rent. So you want to know why I push people to get out of rentals and into owning, even if it's not your dream home, even if it's got ugly shade carpet and ugly wallpaper, just own. It'll change your life. And this is also assuming that all of these repairs and maintenance fees, $5,400 the first year, $57,000 the second year, $6,000 the third year, none of these things are adding value to your home, which they will, because some of this is going to be going from crappy countertops to beautiful granite countertops, old crappy cabinets and now you got new cabinets. You had, shade carpet flooring, but it started to tear at the seams. So you got a beautiful plank tile. These things will add to value. We're not even adding that into this equation, right? So let's go back here. Here's your commission. Here's your 6% I'm adding in. 21,977 if you were to sell at the end of the first year. 23 grand here, 24 grand here. So you can see that commission. Again, that's only going to hit you once. So that is not a cumulative number. It's a one-time number. You can see buying costs only hit you once because you're not buying it more than once. So it's only calculated in once. And again, we're not taking any tax benefit into consideration. Okay. So now you can see this is how much you're out down here. Now you might say, Joe, renting, I'm only out 452. Owning, I'm out 519 over 10 years. How are you telling me that it makes sense to own? That's $70,000 I'm out owning versus renting. It's because your home is not worth 350 anymore. It's now worth 551 after 10 years. That's not that crazy. We've seen homes double in price in 2-3 years in the last couple of years. Now that is crazy. We're probably not going to see that again. But on average, with a 4.65% average increase every single year, 551 is absolutely the norm. Right? What do you owe on your mortgage? You start owing, you know what? This was even done incorrectly. This is even better for owners because I did not put the 3.5% down. I did this mortgage based off 350, right? Instead of, it would have been like 338-ish, 337-ish. So assuming you put nothing down, you will still owe 346 at the end of first year, 342 at the end of the second year. At the end of the 10th year, you will have gone from 350 to 298. There's another $52,000 in your pocket, right? So when you add all that up, you can see year 5, year 6, you're up 22 to 45 grand. Year 8, you go over that $100,000 mark. Year 10, you're almost to $200,000. And the numbers just keep getting crazier. Guys, this is why I push so hard for my friends and family to get out of renting and start purchasing. I know it's tough. I know it's scary. I know you've never done it. I know it's all kinds of things, inconvenient, uncomfortable. This house isn't perfect. I got it. But if you're my daughter, my little girls, when they're 18, I'm going to say, listen, you need to figure out the fastest way to get into a house. And I don't want to hear, I don't like the carpet. I don't like the wallpaper. I don't want to hear any of that. If we got a leaky roof, that's different. If we got an AC that doesn't work, that's different. But if you're talking aesthetic stuff, I do not care. Get into a house, start building wealth. You will thank me in 10 years, I promise, when you're 28, right? Imagine a 28-year-old, and I got a lot of them right now, who purchased when they were 18 to 22 years old. Now they're 28 years old. They're calling me, and at closing, they're getting 6-figure checks. And a few years ago, they purchased a home that was not comfortable. It was not pretty. It was not their dream house. It had small bedrooms. They wanted a bigger bedroom. It had 1 bathroom. They wanted 2 or 3 bathrooms. The kitchen was cut off from the rest of the home. They wanted an open layout. But they said, you know what? I'm going to build wealth. They did it, and now they're getting a 6-figure check. Guys, I want to see this for you too. If you got any questions on this math, if you want that little nerd Excel spreadsheet I made so you can play with it, let me know. I'll ask you for an email or something. I'll send it over to you, not a problem. But guys, I want to see you be successful with this. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. But I'll tell you, credit and I don't have enough cash are generally the 2 biggest problems that people perceive they have to move forward. Your credit does not need to be where you think it can be. You can honestly get a home with a 500 credit score. I wouldn't recommend it, and I'm not going to get into the why because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. But if you're up to 580, 600 on your credit score, you're going to be just fine, right? Does it get better the better your score is? Absolutely. But get into a house. Joe, the rates are high. Guess what? you're still making money. I can run this. I just ran it with 6.75. I ran it with roughly what today's rates are going to be. Now, if you get a 580 credit score, will you get a 675? Maybe, maybe not. But let's run the numbers. Tell me what your credit score is. I'll run the numbers with you. You're going to see that over time, you're going to build wealth in a couple years. It's going to be a game changer for you. Oh, by the way, if you're a rental, you get into a bind and you need 20 grand. You might be out of luck. You might not have the credit card. You might not have the ability to go and get a loan like that. But if you own a home, I'll tell you, we bought our home almost 2.5 years ago, and we've got over $100,000 in equity in this house. I can go get a HELOC. It's a home equity line of credit. Now, if I were to get into a bind, I don't need a credit card. I don't need a loan. I've got that instant HELOC. I can just use that 20 grand for, maybe my car went out or we got a medical issue, whatever it is. It's not just the money. It's also the leverage you're able to use once you own the home. It's a game changer, guys. And again, if you want to take the time to sit down and do this stuff, this is my heart's passion. I will give you my time. I'll give you the effort and I'll run the math with you to see if it makes sense for you. Credit is probably not an issue, and literally every credit issue I've ever seen can be solved in a handful of months. And when you rent, you don't need zero cash down. You need 3 times that rent payment in almost every single scenario. So when I tell you you need $12,000, $13,000 to buy, rent is not $12,000, $13,000 less than that. It's a few $1,000s less than that. And we've got solutions to figure that handful of thousands of dollars out. Like I said, we can do gifts. We've got programs. We can get sellers to pay closing costs. We can get all kinds of things figured out to help you. But guys, if you're looking to get out of a rental and into building long-term wealth, I'm telling you, you're going to want to look at these numbers. I appreciate you listening. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you.